and a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, inside of the Heritage Hill Studios, hanging out with you. Heritage Hill, of course, you could find the brew house by going out to 3149 Sweet Road in Pompey, New York. Head out there today. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you their way out to the brew house. Absolutely love the landscape and just looking at God's country, essentially. It's incredible out there. Heritage Hill Brew House, such a great location for so many things, including hot air balloon rides, which they did last weekend, which is so fun. You know, I would never think that. Growing up in Syracuse, New York, I would never think like, yeah, there's going to be a place that's not too far away where you could just have some great food, great experience, great people, and a hot air balloon ride. So shout out to Dan Palladino and the team over at Heritage Hill, always going the extra mile and doing really cool and amazing things, including a wonderful brunch for Mother's Day and for Father's Day. And they were different too, and the food was great at both, so, and the experience. So thank you for that. And of course, Heritage Hill North, which is their newest location. You could find Heritage Hill North on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, right at Sweetheart Corners. Absolutely love it in there. Love the experience. And it is, of course, the home of my broadcasts with CNS. It's the only place that you'll find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on site, on location with the CNS North Stars of Cicero, North Syracuse, which is right down the road from the amazing Heritage Hill North. So make sure you head over there today. Let them know that DT sent you, or Wake Up Call sent you, or however you want to say it. We appreciate it, and we appreciate, like I said, Dan Palladino and his entire team at Heritage Hill. Got a lot of great stuff coming up for you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning. I am ecstatic for the opportunity to share the show with you. I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful week and a wonderful morning. If you're not, we're going to make it better. If you are, we're going to make it better. That's what we do here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Always having fun with you and always appreciating our time together. So thanks so much for being with us, hanging out with us, and just taking some time here on your morning, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's get into what's coming up on today's show. You that have been listening and watching over the years, you know that we have a trio of signature segments on Fridays on Wake Up Call inside of MonPausPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We proudly bring you the annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Then we bring you LEAD. Learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver is what the LEAD acronym stands for, that God helped me create, and I mean that truly. I don't say it if I don't mean it. He helped me get that idea in 2019, and then literally right after, COVID hit. And learning, evolving, ad-libbing, and delivering on your promise to yourself and your promise to others, all of those were crucial during COVID and post-COVID. So that's proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. We got a new topic for today. I'll announce my top dogs of the week, proudly presented by K9 Kamp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. And then we'll get into around 10:20 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. We will have Dave Pasiak back on the show, longtime basketball head coach and mind, will join me to analyze the NBA draft, which just finished up. It was this past Wednesday, June 26th, and yesterday, Thursday, June 27th. We'll get his thoughts as we analyze the NBA draft and the future of the National Basketball Association. Bronny James joining his father in L.A. Look at my surprise face. To those of you listening on Podbean, my face did not change, just so you know, if you couldn't take it from my sarcasm. So, yes, that's where we are. Very excited to be here with you, and obviously big-time support of Lemoyne, a proud exclusive multimedia marketing partner. But you're going to see me jump into a new wardrobe here. We're going to do a wardrobe change on Wake Up Call because we're talking about the draft today. So a lot of great stuff coming up here. Let's start with the annoying moment of the week.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The annoying moment of the week.
I really, honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
Do you have to be that crazy? I guess so. The annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It is what happy tastes like, and I am so honored and privileged to be able to work with Carvel DeWitt, to work with Carvel in general. I love the product. I've loved it for many, many years. And so you see, we got the Raptors on here. Now, if I can show you in the studio here, it's not only Toronto with the Raptor and number 21, which is my favorite number, but if we spin it around here, you can see that it says Tortora on the back. This jersey, this awesome OVO jersey, the black and gold, coming from my Aunt Donna, who was on the broadcast as we honored my grandmother here recently. So she was with me on the broadcast on Monday with my mom as we did my grandma's Remembrance Day of when she returned to heaven on June 24th. So a lot of great stuff coming up here on the show. Appreciate you being here, hanging out where sports meets life. And, of course, the Toronto Raptors are rocking this here for you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So happy to do that. Happy to be here with you. My annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. When people don't answer questions. Do you ever ask somebody a question and they didn't even come close to the answer? Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. When it comes to people that potentially are leading this country, that are leading a business, you know, when you ask a question, you want to get an answer to that question. And there's a frustration of you know, and here's the thing. When somebody doesn't answer a question, I mean, maybe they didn't understand it, right? But there are times where people don't understand the question. But there's also times where when someone doesn't answer a question, it's because they don't have an answer or they don't want to answer the question. And there's a frustration that I have when people don't answer a question that is posed to them, right? Because we're trying to understand where you're coming from. We're trying to understand what's going on here. I know my mom would say to me, she's like, you answer a question with a question. Like, she'll ask me a question and then I'll ask her a question back. And so, you know, to me, you know, and I can understand that gets, you know, that can obviously be frustrating, but you know, that's one of my annoying moments of the week because it truly is annoying, right? When you ask somebody something and you want to get an answer, and this happens in so many different walks of life. When you're trying to understand something or trying to like get to know something, you don't get an answer, right? You know, and kind of leading off of that, I'm really done with automated systems for businesses. I'm done with automated systems for businesses. I really am, because I want to talk to a human being. And in order to talk to a human being, I have to go through so many prompts, and it's so frustrating. Do you ever try to pay a bill? When you call on the phone, you ever try to pay a bill and you don't say anything and like nothing's happening? You just have it on speakerphone. Maybe a fly flew by your phone, but you got it on speakerphone in the house, right? The phone is just sitting there. It's on speaker, and you're doing your thing. You're getting food ready, doing this, that, whatever. And it's like, if you would like to pay your bill, press what was that? We didn't hear you. If you'd like to pay your bill, press what was that? I'm sorry. Let me get you through to an attendant. And it's like, no, don't get me through to anybody. I just want to pay my bill. I just want to get this done. I just want to pay the bill, right? And these automated systems, they're frustrating because they pick up noise when there is no noise. They pick up things that you... How crazy is this with an automated system? They pick up when you don't speak, but when you do speak, they don't hear you. Do you understand how frustrating that is? When you don't say anything, what was that? That's what the little automated person said. What was that? Did you say something? We didn't quite hear you. And then you have to say it. Like, I'll call and they'll say, to pay your bill, say pay my bill. And I go, pay my bill. Pay my bill. Okay, you'd like to pay your bill. Is that correct? Yes. What did you say? Yes. Okay. Would you like to pay with da-da-da on file? Yes. What was that? Yes. What was that? Let me get you to an attendant. And then you have to hang up and call. It's so frustrating. It is so incredibly frustrating. Or when you call and you have to go through all these automated things and you have to like put in your date of birth. And then when you finally get to a person, they go, "What is your date of birth?" I just put it in. What was the point of putting it into the automated system, talking to the robot, if now I'm talking to you and I'm giving you the same information? There's one company, I'm not going to say who it is, but there's one company that I call to pay, like, in order to pay my bill, there's like no ready phone number to pay the bill. There's no like, this is the phone number to pay your bill. But if you don't pay it soon enough, they'll send you a reminder, and the reminder will have a phone number to pay the bill. So if you're late, they'll give you a phone number. But I can't, on the bill itself, find that phone number to call and pay. And it's so and now there's another one. I've been paying this one company for forever, right? You know, you got like these insurance companies, and I'm paying this insurance company, and they do like this quick pay thing online. When you do the quick pay thing online, now they charge you. They charge you to process it on the computer. So whatever your bill is, they add a couple dollars to it just because. So what is the point of that? So if I pay it by check and I send it in the mail, I'm paying for a stamp above what I'm paying. If I pay it online, I'm now paying a fee, a tax, or whatever they want to call it. I'm paying a fee for them to process it online. Why am I paying a fee to process it online? What is the processing? Is that just the credit card fee that you're sending my way? Can I call and pay it without paying a fee? I just don't understand. When you get a bill and you're paying that bill, why do you have to pay more than the bill? Why? You should never have to pay. If the bill's $120, you shouldn't have to pay $122.88. Because the $288 is for what? Because I paid it online, so in order for you to accept it, it's the $288. I mean, it's just stupid. And I feel like, you know, businesses with things going up, I mean, for goodness sakes, I had to buy something for Lily, my dog, and the price is the same. It's been the same forever and a day. And all of a sudden it's $8 more. And I asked the lady, and she's like, "Yeah, well, things go up, and you know, we the distributor that we have now and this and that." She was super nice, but I said to her, "Is there anything that's not going up in society right now? Like, is there, I mean, this is for my dog. You know, did anybody see during COVID, if you have a dog, you did, that things went up? Now, I think that Lily's dog treats have finally gone down a little bit, but I'm sitting here going, is this a department store thing? Did they raise the price? Did the company who makes it raise the price? Like, who actually raised the price? Because if it's the department store, they're criminals. Because you're going to go to the grocery store, right? Some people, like, for example, some people only shop at Target. They just only shop at Target. So you're going to go there, whether the price is $4.99 or $3.99 or $5.99 or $2.99. People that shop at Target are going to shop at Target, right? And so my question is it the department store? Was it the business that originally made it? That's another annoying moment to me too, because listen, there was just a presidential debate last night and they were talking about inflation. The reality of inflation is whoever's doing what with whatever, whether it's the president, because it's not just one person, but whether it's it's the president, it's Congress, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. At the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day and at the middle of the day, I don't know why I say at the end of the day, because I don't like that statement, because at the end of the day says that the rest of the day doesn't matter. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, this, I know what they mean. They're like, hey, when all's said and done today, this is what I hope. But when it comes down to it, inflation is a monster. And when prices go up, like, let's say okay, here's a good example. I might have given this example on the show before, but in order to have, when I was working at a movie theater, there was a company that would bring the reels to the theater, and gas prices had gone up. And when gas prices went up at that time, this was years and years ago, when gas prices went up, the company that was driving the reels, I think the materials needed to create the reels and package the reels, I think that material went up. I think it was something like potentially that material went up and gas went up, but it was something like gas prices went up. They have to drive the reels here, so then they raised the price of the reels to offset the gas, and then okay, follow the bouncing ball. Gas prices go up. The people that are delivering the reels raise the price of the reels to offset the gas prices because they have to drive the reel to the movie theater. Then the movie theater gets the reel at a higher price, so then they raise the price of the tickets to go see the movies because it always trickles down to the consumer. I can't stand this. And I had this conversation yesterday at the Wildcat Sports Pub after our West Genesee Wildcats baseball live broadcast, which was tremendous. And thank you to the community of West Genesee. It's been almost a full 8 years that we have spotlighted your sports, your student athletes, your coaches, and the community of West Genny at the Wildcat. And I am so grateful and appreciative and thankful to the West Genesee supporters and the families and the people that go to the Wildcat, as well as the people that obviously support West Genny right over the hill and the surrounding community of Fairmount and Camillus and all of that. I just want to say thank you, and to the people that drive from North Syracuse and East Syracuse and Syracuse downtown and, Camillus Cicero and Liverpool and so on and so forth. I thank everybody that comes out to the Wildcat, and a big time thanks to West Genesee's community as well. So I'm having this conversation after the fact, after the show. And, I said, I think people might think I'm joking, but people that know me know I'm not. I might run for president someday. And do I want the ridiculous? I mean, the thing is being the president of the United States, obviously I'm going to see even more than what I think I know up to this point. And when I see those things, am I going to be happy with those things? But the reality of it all for me is I might run for president someday because I just gave you the inflation bouncing ball. And that inflation bouncing ball of raise the price of gas, raise the price of the reel, raise the price of the ticket always hits the consumer. The consumer is always punished. We're always punished. Okay? And to any presidential candidate or any politician or anybody anywhere to say that there's not inflation in this country, they're lying to our faces. And if you're stupid enough to believe that, that's on you. But and I'm not trying, I don't want to be as blunt as that, but it's true. I mean, you have to literally have little to no brain to go to the grocery store and not look at this thing and say, this is wrong, right? This is wrong. And I'm taking politics out of it. I'm just speaking to the fact of, like, if somebody says to you there is no inflation and you're stupid enough to nod your head like a sheep, then I do think you're that person. And if someone said, walk off this cliff, you'll live, you'll float, you'll walk off the cliff and you'll die. And, I guess you just won't be there to realize how stupid of a decision that was. But inflation is real and it's affecting so many people, and it hurts my heart. And I was having a conversation about, that I would run for president. And I tell people all the time, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, black, white, blue, green, man, woman, whatever, and what religion you are, what background, we want the same things. And I think that now we're in an election year, and in all honesty, maybe I've just kept myself away from it, but I haven't seen a lot of this stuff. Like the fact that this is an election year and we're at the end of June and I'm just starting to see stuff. Maybe that's me staying away from it. And maybe it's just been a quieter, season in this respect, but I don't like being around dramatic things. And so I've stayed away from it. And last night watching this debate, I just thought to myself, why do we describe ourselves on parties? Why do we describe ourselves as we're either all the way over here or all the way over there when most people are in the middle? Most people want to work together. We want to compromise. There might be one issue that puts you so far on one side or so far on the other side, but then the other issues you might be in the middle. There's just one thing that you feel very, very passionate about. And I just feel like when you keep people on two sides of the room, no one's ever going to dance, right? If you walk to a dance and you got wallflowers on the right and wallflowers on the left, there's nobody dancing on the dance floor. Then we're playing the music for no reason and nobody's having fun. And if Congress is a dance floor, ain't nobody dancing. And I was just talking about, like, I may run for president someday. And the reason why is I love people. I mean, well, first and foremost, I love God and I love people. And when I talk to people who are of all different this, that, and the third, all these groups that they try to segregate us in, we all want the same stuff, right? We want affordable health care, which, by the way, it's not. So, I mean, sitting up there and hearing people say that, healthcare is affordable. And I can tell you my healthcare has been wonky. As a business owner, it has been all over the place. And my deductible is outrageous. So anybody that tells you that healthcare is better and it's affordable is lying, because on a consistent basis, it's not consistent. Now, have I had good healthcare at times? Yes. But you're punished as a business owner for being more successful. And how are businesses supposed to grow when we're slapped for growing? So I think that, that's something that has to change. I think, everybody wants to live in a safe neighborhood. I don't know anybody that's like, I would like to live in a bad neighborhood. I'd like to live in a neighborhood where there's gunshots every night and my kids can't go outside. I don't think anybody wants that. So on either side of the coin, that is something that I think we can all agree with. So healthcare, safety, I think we can agree that people want food and for it to be affordable. I think we can agree that we want to help the environment. I think most people would want to help the environment. It's the planet we live on. So you want to have breathable air and clean water and all of that. Do I think that electric cars are the answer? No. Why do I think that? Because I rented an electric car, and you might think that it's cool and it's a great idea like I did. And then when you have to stop your vacation or stop your work so that you can go plug in somewhere and sit in the car or sit by the car. I mean, think about this. I was in St. Augustine. I had an electric car. I'm covering the Jaguars. And then after the Jaguars game, I'm in St. Augustine. I had to find a dealership, plug my car in, walk to Walmart was the closest, and walk around Walmart for an hour while my car charged so that I could bring it back with the charge that it needed so that I didn't get fined from the rental company, And the lady literally told me at the rental company, she goes, when you have like 5 or 6 hours to kind of just hang out with the car during your trip, like just find some time where you have like 5 or 6 hours to just sit. What person is going to like go to Disney and then be like, okay, kids, we can't go to Disney on the last day because we have to sit at the dealership and charge our electric vehicle. So we're going to lose an entire day of our vacation, and then we're not going to go on vacation for like another 5 years. So there needs to be a better thing for that. But I think most people want to help the environment. And I'm not trying to knock electric cars. I'm knocking the fact that it's not logical. It's not rational, and it's not helpful. And if you've rented an electric car, you would understand. So because you literally have to take time out of your day to do absolutely nothing. So, or just plan. Maybe you want to write a novel in the car. I don't know. But I made phone calls. I was like, okay, if I'm going to be stuck waiting, then I'm going to make phone calls. I'm going to set things up. I'm going to get things ready. Like, I'm the type of person where I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to be a mover and a shaker. Like, that's what I do. So, because I don't like when I waste time. It makes me very upset to waste time. So, I think most people want to help the environment, right? And find a logical, rational, feasible way to do so. I think most people want their kids to have a better life than they did. I think most people want our children to be educated. I don't think I would like to hope that no parent wants to have a child go to school where 2 + 2 is whatever their child thinks it is. Because if that's the case, then I can go to my bank today and go 2 + 2 is $1 million. So I just put in $2 and then I put in another $2, and instead of $4, it should be $1 million because that's what I believe that 2 + 2 equals. So now you have to change my bank account. That's irrational. It's illogical. We teach it in schools that 2 + 2 can be 5, which is insanity because that doesn't live in the real world and you can't make your money do that. So that's a stupid thing. So I feel like most people want good education, right? I think most people want to make enough money so that they could pay their bills and get to like travel or do something nice for themselves or the people that they love. So we bond on so many things, but we're grouped in all these things. What color are you? Okay, now you're in those groups. What's your sexuality? You're in those groups. What's your gender? You're in those groups. What's your religion? You're in those groups. What's your nation of origin? You're in the No, there is, when it comes down to it, healthcare, safety, food, shelter, drink, clean water, clean air, education. Most of us are in the same agreement. We're together, right? We're in the same, yes, this is what we want. We're in the same space. And so when I talk about, my thought of running for president, it's not for the accolades. It's not for, people to cheer and go, oh my God, you're the best. Because, no matter what you do, somebody's going to hate your job, right? No matter what you do. I know that. I mean, I've gone out and helped people who slap my hand. Don't help me. Okay, well, that's ridiculous. So I wouldn't do it for the accolades. I would do it for my belief in God and my belief that human beings should have the best opportunity to be healthy and safe and well. There should be no laws that segregate or discriminate against people, right? I mean, I've worked for, and I'm not going to name the company, but I worked for one of the biggest companies in the world. And that company was punishing people that got injured on the job. So you're already physically injured, and then they were punishing them, allegedly trying to push them out, make them retire. And their treatment of the elderly or people that were getting older was insane. What I learned from that company, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, is never get injured. Never get injured. Now, somebody tried, you know what I mean? Somebody tries to, because I got injured. And it's never get injured when it comes to this company, because the level of disrespect, abuse, just hearing the stories that I heard, I was baffled that there was any legality to what they were doing. And I just feel like there's so many instances where you sit with a family, and I don't like, I mean, I'm part Hispanic, and in my, I mean, that culture is used. It's used, right? Every election, every presidential election, it's used. The black community is used, and women are used, men are used. And I don't like that. If I ran for president of the United States, I would answer questions, right? Now, I know people are going to try and get you to answer a certain way. There's an agenda potentially, but because this is the media that we're dealing with. But I think, you answer it to the best of your ability, and you answer it honest. See, here's the thing. If you answer something with honesty, people can say what they want to say and do what they want to do. But my dad told me a long time ago, people will always make assumptions. They will always say things and do things and this and that. But at the end of the day, don't give them a reason. Don't give them a reason. That's what my dad always said. He said, people are going to say things and do things, but don't give them a reason to be right. So if you answer honestly with your heart and you tell the truth every time, then yeah, they might twist your words and they might do this, that, and the other. I mean, I've dated people that twisted my words, but it's not like I'm not accustomed to people twisting my words. I mean, for goodness sakes, there was a company that wrote an article about a prediction that I made that didn't include all of my quotes and my background, and I think it was to appear to make me look stupid. And it blew up in their face because I ended up being right. But the reality for me is, why, if you're honest with your answers and you tell the truth every time, yes, people can make of that what they want to make of that, but you can, number one, you can sleep at night. Number two, you got a fighting chance of making it back to heaven. And number three, you're not having to remember what you said because it's how you feel. And it's what you actually think. So, my annoying moment of the week, which started with people not answering questions, that's frustrating. right? It's frustrating. You ask somebody a question and they don't give you an answer. That's frustrating. That's frustrating if they're your employee, your employer. It's frustrating if you're calling a company to dispute a charge. It's frustrating if you're at the grocery store and you're trying to find something. When people don't give you a direct answer to a direct question, it is frustrating. It's frustrating in dating. It's frustrating in friendships. It's frustrating with family. You know, how many of us go up to our spouse and go, "What do you want for dinner?" And they're like, "I don't care. What do you want?" And then you pick a place and they're like, "Well, I don't want that." You just said you didn't care. If your answer is, "I don't care, I'll go wherever," then guess what? When I pick a place, we're going to go there because you said I don't care and you'll go wherever. If you don't care and we'll go wherever, I'm going to take your exact words and I'm going to apply them. Well, not there. I meant anywhere but there. Okay, so then you pick. And I've gotten to the point with people where I'm like, okay, you know what? You pick. Because I know that I'm not picky and you are, and I don't want to deal with this for 3 hours, so you figure it out. Where would you like to go? How about you tell me where you want to go, and then we'll figure this out together. Because ultimately, in life, when you ask somebody a question, you want to get an answer. And especially when they're a leader in any respect, president, CEO, COO, whatever. You want to get an answer. And that all leads into my conversation of running for president someday, is because it's not as hard as they make it. It's really not. And I think the unfortunate part is somebody like myself wouldn't be on either of the major two tickets, probably, because I'd be trying to help the majority of America to the best of my ability. And when I say the majority, you're not going to please everybody. I would be trying to help the country and the world. And, you know, I think two sides have just gotten so divided that people don't even know why they're fighting anymore. And, you know, and that's frustrating, right? I kind of look at like Congress like it's the Yankees, and it's like Yankees fans and Red Sox fans. No matter what a Yankees fan says, the Red Sox, even if they agree with you, they're not going to agree with you because they're Red Sox fans. And if the Red Sox say something that make a lot of sense, the Yankees aren't going to agree with it because they don't want to tell their friends that they agreed with a Red Sox fan. So, you know, we have to essentially take the jersey logo off and remember that our main logo is red, white, and blue. That our main logo is representative of 50 stars, 50 states. And when we talk about being the best nation in the world, or one of the best, we don't act like that. And we don't look like that. I think we once were a great nation. I think when my grandfathers fought in World War II, I think we once were. And I think now we are a land filled with amazing people that aren't given true leadership and direction. And I think that we're in need of faith in God. I think we're in need of a kind heart. I think we're in need of pure heart and good intentions. I think we're in need of honesty. I think we're in need of diplomacy. I think we're in need of democracy because that word has been distorted. And I think that we need to work together. So I don't come here today on either side of the coin. I come here today as a proud American who grew up with a respect for the military, a respect for law enforcement. I grew up with an appreciation of people that put their lives on the line in hospitals and in ambulances and firefighters and police officers. I grew up with a respect for educators. I grew up with a respect for those of faith that are trying to spread that faith and to be there for people. I grew up that if somebody looks different than you, that is not a reason to disrespect them. If somebody sounds different than you, it is not a reason to disrespect them. If you disagree with someone, to sit down at a table over lunch or dinner and have a conversation about it, but to never scream at each other. I was always told that if someone disagrees with you, sit down with them. Don't run away. And all those things I was taught as a kid, I would take into being the president of the United States. So, my annoying moment of the week is what's going on, but my hope for the future is that if I run, hopefully we can make some change, and if I don't run and somebody else does, that we can have someone who sees things as one whole community and not a bunch of different factions. And it's going to lead perfectly into our conversation in Lead today because of what we're going to talk about today in Lead. But, my annoying moment of the week, like I said, people not answering direct questions, and then that going into automated services. And when you call almost every business now, not Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, thank God, but when you call a lot of businesses now, the automated stuff is just wonky. And some of them are better than others, but you used to be able to, if you called any business and you got the automated system, you could hit 0, it would bypass everything, and it would bring you to a human being. But because businesses got hip to that, now when you dial 0, some of these businesses, it goes right back to the main menu, and you got to hear everything again because they're like, no, you thought you could hit 0 for the operator, but in actuality, 0 just replays this because we're on to you. So some of us, you have to hit 7. Some you have to go through 19 different prompts. It's so annoying and it's so frustrating. And why do I want to do the automated system not on speakerphone, right? But when you put it on speakerphone, it picks up any noise and it'll say, what was that? What was that? What was that? And that's the thing, like I was saying before, it'll pick up nothing and say, what was that? And then when you give a direct and clear answer, it doesn't hear you. So it hears Casper the Ghost apparently talking, but you can't see him. And then it doesn't hear when you actually speak to it. So it doesn't hear a real voice, but it hears the voices in its head, apparently, of this wonderful automated system. So it all comes down to communication. Not answering a direct question, automated services being frustrating. I think we can all agree on that when we call a business and we have to deal with it. And then leading into communicating as the President of the United States. I feel like everybody makes this into a thing that it's really not, right? I mean, this is real life. People joke about World War III. They, this is going to lead to this, is going to lead to that. We can't afford that. And I don't think people fully understand. Nuclear war, the lasting effects of a nuclear attack can lead to so many things to decimate the entire world. That if you win the nuclear war, you're probably going to lose with everybody else. I don't think people understand that. Why do you think this stuff doesn't go off? Why do you think people haven't used certain things? Because if you use them, we're all done. The lasting effects of it, could it cause mutation? Will we have to live underground? I mean, do you want to be in the TV show Fallout? Is that what you hope to do? And I mean, you look at, could it lead to cancers? I mean, there's so many things that come from this that it could kill people immediately and then it could kill people over time. I mean, look at 9/11. The people that went into the buildings to try and help people that were breathing in that air, they end up dying of different things years later. And then it's like, oh, well, that could have been from the air that they were breathing in. It could have been, like literally by going to try and save lives, their life is lost. So, my annoying moment of the week really comes down to communication and clarity. And it comes down to a country that I love dearly that doesn't really have any direction right now. If you ask somebody, where is America going? What is our direction? What is our purpose? What is our plan? I don't think most people could give you an answer. But in the past, they could tell you. My grandmother could probably, she lived to be almost 101. She could probably tell you the direction of the United States of America in most cases from when she was born to, when she went back to heaven. So I'm not here to talk about political parties. I'm not here to talk about this side or that side. I'm here to say, after watching the debate last night, I really just want what I wanted before the debate, which is for people to come together and work together and love each other and settle our differences, because screaming about our differences does not bring about a solution, and stomping our feet doesn't bring about a solution. If we wouldn't let our children stomp their feet and scream in the middle of Wegmans, why are we voting people in that are doing that? And that's not just the president, that's with anything. We have to work together. You know, if Congress is a bunch of Red Sox fans and Yankee fans, and I'm using this, as an analogy, they're never going to agree, because just for the principle of it, Red Sox and Yankees fans are not supposed to agree. You're going to get Eagles and Cowboys in the room and they're going to hug each other? No, they're probably going to scream at each other. And, I want to see a country that just stops yelling and stops lying and just starts holding each other accountable and working together. I'm sad. I'm sad at what I see in today's world. I'm sad at how polarizing it is. I'm sad at people that are fighting. There are people that stop being friends with each other over this stuff. I had a friend. We're not friends anymore. This isn't the reason, but, I would have open dialogue with him and he wanted to fight. And he was on one side. He thought I was only on the other, when in actuality, I live in a world where I'm trying to compromise between two extremes. And, he would fight with me on so many different things, but then he would turn a blind eye to anything that he was defending. And there was a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of double standards in our conversations, to the point where I was like, you know what? I can't have a conversation with you about this, because I want to have a conversation about us coming together, and you want to have a conversation about how I'm wrong. And how can I be wrong if I want people to work together? So if I ever ran for president, I can promise you my faith in God. I can promise you my faith in humanity. I can promise you my hope. It doesn't mean I'm going to be happy with all of the decisions that humanity has made, but my faith in humanity. I can promise you hope. I can promise you honesty, and I could promise you humility, and I could promise you that I will fight for justice. This world is not perfect, but we most certainly have the power to be better than we have been. And I just hope that we do that. And I hope that we do that together. I don't want people to talk about political parties and extremes anymore. I want people to just work together, because, again, healthcare, safety, health in general, clean water, clean air, a healthy planet, enough money to take care of ourselves and our families, and to have a little bit left over to do things we want to do. Education, being good and true and honest, and 2 + 2 always equaling 4. I think there's things, affordability of goods and services, lowering inflation. I think these are all things that we can agree on. I don't think anybody's like, no, Dan, I love paying inflation. I want education to be different in different places. I want everyone to teach 2 + 2 is something different. I don't think people would agree with that. I don't think people want to pay inflation. I don't think people want to live in unsafe places. I don't think people want to not have affordability of healthcare and other goods and services. I would imagine most people want clean water and clean air. So if the majority of us that are rational and logical want the same things, then we should start working together. And we should start seeing the divisiveness of the powers that be, and we should choose to not listen to them. And instead, we should work together on finding a peaceful, amicable move forward where it was to the good of a few. God loves all his kids. And whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I love all of y'all too. Because you were created in God's image and likeness, and so was I. So I send you my love. I love you. God loves you. And if love is real, which it is, then let's work together. Let's work together. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. This has been the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Make sure you go and get my DT Dolphins Sunday today at Carvel DeWitt, exclusively on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It's a buy one, get one every Wednesday as well, so you can get 2 DT Dolphins for the price of 1. We'll take a step aside and come back with lead right after this from inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. Thanks for being with us. Central New Yorkers, you can now enjoy the tastes of Heritage Hill award-winning craft beers, seltzers, and a full bar at 3 locations. Spend your weekends at their beautiful location in Pompey with its amazing views, sunsets, family, and pet-friendly facilities, as well as extensive private event areas. Get their taps, tonics, and tastes in their brand new North Syracuse location at Sweetheart Corner in North Syracuse, New York. When flying in and out of Syracuse Hancock International Airport, make sure to visit their Palladino Farms location. At Heritage Hill, they believe in supporting our community and are excited to now meet you where you're at and where you're going with their local farm-raised tastes. Find out more information at heritagehillbrewery.com. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Kampground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Kampground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Kampground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9Kampground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9Kampground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here, hanging out with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. Heritage Hill Brew House at 3149 Sweet Road in Pompey, New York. You can find them out there in the country with the beautiful rolling hills of central and upstate New York. You can also find them at Heritage Hill North, which is their newest location, right by CNS, right down the road from the high school, CNS North Stars. That's where we do our broadcast every single month with CNS. Heritage Hill North, 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, right there at Sweetheart Corner, so make sure you check them out. Coming up next here on the broadcast is LEAD, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. That is the acronym here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. And the annoying moment of the week, perfectly leading into this, as it always does. I don't do this on purpose. I blame God for this. So how they link up to each other. The topic today, houses are better built together. Houses are better built together. Seems simple enough, right? Houses are better built together. There's something to be said about how quickly you can build something when you have a bunch of people working together on it, as opposed to a few people working on it, other people watching while they eat a sandwich, or trying to build something totally by yourself without anybody, right? Working together is not always an easy thing, because when you work with a bunch of people, you have to make some concessions. Let's look at a very simple example. You're in school, you're in high school. Your teacher gives you a project. In this project, you are asked to come up with, let's say, creating a new product, right? You're going to create a new product. And in this creation of this new product, your teacher randomly puts you with 3 other people. You're in groups of 4. And as simply put as this, the 4 of you have to link up your schedules. 3 of you can meet Wednesdays at 3 p.m., but 1 of you can't. So do you meet without that person? Or do you meet on Thursdays at 5? Because that's when everybody can get together. See, houses are better built together is a way of saying working together makes things better. It's just a simple fact. You can do something over a period of time. Like, I think about it like this. When I do a live event like I did last night, I have a bunch of equipment, and I bring that equipment. Now, I got smart with it, and I was like, and I want to thank Brendan Murphy, who does DT and Murphy with me, Murph has this collapsible cart that he can put his stuff on when he goes to sports card shows. Well, I bought the exact same cart to put my equipment on. I can get all my equipment on the cart, and I can push that cart. Now, when I was pushing the cart with all the equipment, I can get the door, but when I get the door, I have to get the door, hold the door, pull my cart through, get the other door, hold that door. So yesterday, somebody held the door for me going in. Somebody held the door and then the second door. Somebody held the 2 doors for me going out. And I thank those people once again. I appreciate it. So I could have opened the door and had my foot out, my arm out, trying to not have the door hit my equipment, not have it hit me. What if there's other people going in and out? And I can look like I'm trying to, do a Charlie Chaplin film. Or I have my cart and somebody could say, hey man, let me get the door for you. Let me get the other one for you. And that helped things to work easier because you're working with somebody else. And that to me is very important. So I fully know from an example just yesterday that when someone helps somebody else, it makes things go smoother. It makes things easier. And we might not want to ask for help, but help is something that is always better to have it than not to have it. Right? So I ask you today, how many things would be better if people work together? Well, building a house, of course. You know how long it would take one person to build a house by themselves? They can do it. They can do it. But how easy would that be? And how much time would that take? Houses are better built together. This is with anything. The house is the figurative speech and literal because houses are better built together. But figuratively speaking, a house could be anything, right? It's hard to build a relationship with somebody romantically when you're doing it by yourself. It's hard to build a friendship when you're the only one that calls, you're the only one that sets up plans, you're the only one that texts, you do everything first, and you have to carry the weight of the friendship at all times, because if you don't text them and you don't call them and you don't make plans, then you don't hear from them and you don't do anything with them because you're the one that's responsible for getting it all done. Now, if you're a sibling that constantly, like your sibling comes to visit you and you clean for them and you cook for them and you make everything easy for them, and then when you go to visit them, their house is dirty, they want to go out to eat all the time, they don't cook anything, they don't clean anything, they don't make things easy for you, they invite you into their home, but they kind of leave you on your own and they don't really care to help you out, that's not good, right? You have to work together. When you don't work together, there's resentment, there's anger, there's sadness, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's stress. And when we talk about this segment being called LEAD, which is learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver, houses are better built together, right? We learn that over time. We should evolve to being open to working with others, including people with different opinions. We have to ad-lib when something doesn't work out, right? We might buy a material for a house that's not the best thing, or something's just, maybe we buy the wrong screws. Now, we can jam those screws in and hope to gosh darn it that they keep the house up, but who wants to move it to a house when you're told, hey, just so you know, we put the wrong screws into the foundation of the house. Let's just hope your house doesn't fall over in the middle of the night. And deliver, right? Deliver on your promise. When you agree to work together to actually do it. See, that perfect example of houses are better built together, to me, is going back to school, because we all, I would imagine, we all at some point had to work on a project in whatever class we were in, we had to work on a project with people that we didn't normally eat lunch with, hang out with, ever. You know, at some point in your life, you were put in a group where you had to work on something with somebody who you don't associate with. And I honestly think that's what they should do to Congress. I think every time they're trying to pass a bill, they should make small groups and randomly choose Republicans, Democrats, and Independents and put them in groups together, and they all have to work together toward passing the bill. And people say, well, Dan, nothing would get done. Oh, no. Honey, something would get done because there's a breaking point, right? There would have to be some type of failure clause in this thing, right? There would have to be like, hey, you all have to work together to make a decision by this point. The decision cannot be an indecision. How about that? You know, but I would do that as president. I would say, okay, we're going to be in small groups. I'm going to treat you as children because you act like that. And we're going to work together. You're going to work with people you don't eat lunch with, that you don't associate with, people that you might make fun of. You now have to work with these people because if anything, it compels you to get to know these people. And when it compels you to get to know these people, you realize that there's a humanity factor to people that goes beyond your assumptions of people. And, you know, I might not even have them work on a bill together. I might just go to Congress as president and say, I'm going to split y'all up into small groups and you have to get to know each other and you have to come back and tell me 5 good things about each person that you learned. You have to spend a day with each of, like, let's say we're going to go in groups of 4. So you have to spend a day, each of you has to spend a day with the other 3 people in your group. So like at a time, one at a time. So you have to spend over the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have to spend Friday with person A, Saturday with person B, and Sunday with person C. And then you have to come back to me and you have to tell me what you learned about these people, who they are, what they do. Because what you're going to find out, I would hope, is you're going to find out, oh, wow, you know, here I am on this one side of the aisle and they're on the other side of the aisle, but they're a really good mom. They do a great job of taking care of their kids. I can't believe how many hours they put into work, and they make sure that their kids' lunch is always packed and they always have food on the table for dinner for their family. That's incredible. And somebody saying, oh, you know what? I hung out with this one guy and I was just totally moved by the fact that, you know, he and his wife are no longer together, but in order to see his son, the lengths that he goes in a given day to just go and see him and play catch with him. And I'm sitting here thinking this guy doesn't put in any work. He actually puts in 16 hours in the office, but he takes a break in the middle of the day from 12 to 1, and he goes and plays catch with his son in the summer when his son's out of school, just to spend a little bit of time with him. And even though him and his ex-wife aren't together, his ex-wife is open to him having time every single day because he's a good father. That's what I want people to know, because if you know someone's a good father, if you know someone's a hard worker, if you know someone's an honest person, if you go to church with somebody, go to synagogue, go to temple with somebody, you're going to realize the humanity of that person. If you realize the humanity of that person, then you can no longer, I would hope, go into a room and say, they're on that side, I'm on this side, and I'm going to hate them because they're on that side and they're not sitting on my side. Because now you have to look at that person, you have to remember how they treated their son. You have to remember how they treated the person at the grocery store. You have to remember how they prayed when they were in church. You have to remember how they handled themselves in a given day when they were in a crisis situation on the phone. And you have to see this person at 3 o'clock in the morning typing on their computer, making sure that something gets done that you've never seen anybody else stay up long enough to do. Most people will just go to bed. When you know those things about somebody, it is hard to just go against them off of a facade or an assumption, because now you know the humanity of the person behind your original assumption. And when you know the humanity of a person, I would like to think that that is going to cause you to see the good in everyone and hopefully work together. That's my hope. So, houses are better built together. You know that, and I know that. So, let's stop trying to do this whole thing by yourselves. By the way, too, if you have a stud you're trying to put up and you're trying to nail it into the frame, you have to hold it, nail it. You got to put the nail there. You got to put the nail there, have the drill there, but then who's supposed to hold it? Because if you got to hold the nail, then who's going to hold? You can't build a house by yourself. Not a house that's going to stand. And what do they always say? It's in the Bible. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. A house divided against itself cannot stand. That's in the Bible. I thought somebody said that. I thought a politician said that. That's in the Bible. Maybe they did, but not before the Bible said it. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I read this recently, and I might be paraphrasing the kingdom part. It might be a little bit different. But it's essentially, that's what it is. A kingdom cannot stand divided. A house cannot stand divided. It's in the Bible. So, over 2,000 years ago, they believed that you had to build houses together and not be divided. So you would think 2,000 plus years later, maybe we learned a thing or two about a thing or two. And if we haven't, it's time to get to know. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay proudly bringing you Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-lib, and Deliver. And today's topic, houses are better built together. Our next piece of the broadcast today, Top Dog of the Week. Top Dog of the Week proudly presented by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. So much appreciation for K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. They do a tremendous job taking care of our furry loving friends. I cannot thank Lorraine, Chad, and the team enough for how good they treat Miss Lily and Leo and everybody that goes out there to K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. They remember the birthdays of the dogs. They put out birthdays on social media. You know, it's really, it's a family, and it's a bunch of caring people that are taking care of your dogs. And we know how much we love our pets. We know how much our dogs mean to us, and we know that they become a part of the family. They are a part of the family. They have a seat at the table, essentially. And having a seat at the table, we want them to be taken care of, whether it's for a few hours while we're at work, or whether it's for 5 days when we have to go on a trip somewhere, either work related or we're just, personally doing something, whatever it may be. Or maybe we're having a graduation party and we think like, hey, for the graduation party, it's going to be really tough with people going in and out of the house, and we don't want the dog to get out, so we're just going to bring them over to K9 Kampground Dog Boarding and have them stay there for a night so that we can, do the things that we need to do at home and not have to worry about the dog getting out or anybody feeding the dog something that they're not supposed to. So, that's another piece of it as well. There's so many reasons why you would use dog daycare and why you would use dog boarding. And when you're going to use that, the place to go, K9 Camp Dog Daycare on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding on 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse. They're right by each other. They're across the street from BJ's Wholesale Club, right off of Bridge Street, right by Erie Boulevard. Multiple highways and the thruway easily get you to K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. If you have any questions or thoughts, and of course to book your stay for your dog, you would call the daycare at 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110. You can also go to k-9kamp.com. And for the campground, for dog boarding, for longer term care, every dog gets their own lodging. They have their own nice little area to themselves. And you can call 315-299-4013 for the campground. That's 315-299-4013, and go to kampground.com. My top dogs of the week for this week is something that I've been meaning to do on the show. For those of you that pay very close attention, you've been thinking, Dan's sitting in a chair and there's this thing behind him. Is it a shirt? Well, it is a shirt. And I promised them that I would do this. The fact that flag football is here in the community, I love it. The fact that it allows the opportunity for girls to play the sport of football, I'm even more ecstatic about. And the first ever, there's only going to be one of these, the first ever Section 3 Division I champion, the Baldwinsville Bees, the entire team that was on site on location when we did our show at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. They signed this t-shirt for me, coaches included. So they gave me this Baldwinsville Bees shirt, and it has the signatures of your first ever Section 3 Division 1 girls flag football champions. So not only is this the champion shirt of the Baldwinsville Bees, it's the first championship shirt of girls flag football in Section 3 in Division 1 here in our community of Central and Upstate New York. So these will forever be the first time champions, the first champions ever of girls flag football coming into fruition. The coaches signed this, and I can't thank them enough. Coach Vanetta has his signature on here. And, I'm just looking through here and seeing the team. Coach Morse, Kathy Morse, with her signature. And I want to thank everybody. Sadie, Ava, Liv, Gabby, Sam, Lila, Mallory, Ella, Ava Warner as well. Capri, Aubrey, Elise, Sophia, Medea, Kiana, Jameson, Riley, Kira, Nora, Bree, Ella Valentine, Ayla, Maddie McCullum, Cassie, Sydney, and Evangeline for signing this for me. Congratulations to you, to your families, to everything that you've done, to the coaching staff and to the team. You are my top dogs of the week. I know this happened weeks ago, but this is in the studio. As I promised you, it's going to be in my studio here for Wake Up Call in the Heritage Hill Studios. It's going to stay in my studio. It will always have a home in my studio. Congratulations to the Baldwinsville Bees Championship Girls Flag Football Team of 2023-24. Congratulations to them being the first champions ever in Section 3 Division 1. These will forever be the first ever champions of flag football in our community of Central New York. So a big time congratulations to the Bees. And this has been sitting behind me, and I've been meaning to do this special. I want to thank Pizza Man for our incredible partnership and for their love of the Baldwinsville Bees and for working here with us in partnership in the community and having Baldwinsville shows on Wake Up Call right there with us on site on location at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York throughout the year. I cannot thank you enough. So, yeah, to the Bees, congratulations. To flag football in our community, I'm so happy it's here. Girls flag football, a lot of great stuff, a lot of cool things. Baldwinsville Bees, God bless you. Shout out to you. And go Bees, and congratulations on your amazing, amazing championship. So this lives here always, and I want to make sure to honor you all as top dogs, or top Bees, if you will, proudly presented by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I will be joined by my longtime friend and guest, Dave Pasiak. He's been with me since I moved back to my hometown of Syracuse, New York. Over a decade of conversations with Dave Pasiak continues after this, as Dave will be joining me to speak on the NBA draft. And I am so very excited to have this conversation as we analyze the two-day draft for the 2024 NBA picks. And moving on from here as well with Jesse Edwards, former Syracuse player, went to West Virginia. He was signed by the Minnesota Timberwolves, so congratulations to him for that. I know PJ Hall of Clemson that I've covered. He's been signed. Some ACC guys signed. So very much looking forward to the conversation with Dave from the Heritage Hill Studios on Wake Up Call right after this. Central New Yorkers, you can now enjoy the taste of Heritage Hill award-winning craft beers, seltzers, and a full bar at 3 locations. Spend your weekends at their beautiful location in Pompey with its amazing views, sunsets, family, and pet-friendly facilities, as well as extensive private event areas. Get their taps, tonics, and tastes in their brand new North Syracuse location at Sweetheart Corner in North Syracuse, New York. When flying in and out of Syracuse Hancock International Airport, make sure to visit their Palladino Farms location. At Heritage Hill, they believe in supporting our community and are excited to now meet you where you're at and where you're going with their local farm-raised tastes. Find out more information at heritagehillbrewery.com.
Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop shop for all your sports card and trading card needs. Folks, GG Cards and Breaks, to me, it is about community. It is about compassion. It's about being a big kid and having that awesome spirit. It's not just a sports card shop. It's a place where you can go to catch up with a bunch of people that care about you, care about what's going on in your life. They remember what matters. They remember the teams you're looking for, the players you're looking for. When you're a repeat guest at GG Cards and Breaks, because I'm going to say guest more than customer, when you're a repeat guest and you go in there, you have the opportunity to enjoy so many awesome things. They always have new products coming in. It's so much fun. They love opening stuff. They're like big kids with it all. So to me, it's not just going and buying something and leaving. A lot of these department stores, you go, there's nobody there to help you. There's nobody there in that aisle. There's no one to answer any questions. They might not even know the answer to the questions. You buy the product, you go to the register. A lot of times you ring out by yourself because there's nobody there. So you just do the self-checkout and then you're gone. When you go to GG Cards and Breaks from start to finish, do you have any questions? How can we help you? They'll know things about the products. If they don't know something, they'll look it up or they'll ask somebody there that does know it. And they'll get into, what they've had, what they've seen. They'll be honest with you about, how do the cards look this time around? Who are you looking for? What's special about this box? Why would you choose this one over that one? So it's the knowledge, it's the attention to detail, it's the care for the community, it's being a big kid and having an awesome spirit. GG Cards and Breaks is just different. And that's why I go there all the time. So I appreciate them being open 7 days a week. And I would appreciate you heading over there and, after hearing what I said today, giving an opportunity for them to show you what I said on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. There for you Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. GG Cards and Breaks. Experience that difference today. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, I am so honored and privileged, as always, to have my next guest on the show. I love the opportunity that we have had. I can't believe how many years it's been, but Dave and I have been broadcasting together on Wake Up Call for my grandfather's lucky number of 13 years. Dave was one of my first guests when I came back to Syracuse, New York, and that was back in like 2011 time, 2011, 2012. And here we are in 2024. So 12 to 13 years, about 13 years time around that time that Dave and I have been talking. So very honored, very privileged to have Mr. Pasiak back here in the Heritage Hill studios. You know that the brew house of Heritage Hill is on 3149 Sweet Road in Pompey, and Heritage Hill North, their newest location, is centrally located as so many pieces of Central and Upstate New York on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse at the historic Sweetheart Corner. So with that being said, it is time for us to get into the NBA draft, and I am joined by, on the phone here, we're going to have Dave Pasiak here, longtime basketball coach and analyst of the game, a basketball mind that I appreciate and I respect very much so. And above all things, a good friend here on the broadcast with us as we bring in Dave here on the phone. Mr. Pasiak, how we doing today?
Doing great, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And you and I were talking off the air. I got to ask you this, Dave. I just want to get your thoughts about this. And it's a very simple question to ask as far as the not having a question with a lot of words in it, but it's a question that some people balk at, freak out about. Some people believe yes, some people believe no, but I want to ask you this because I've heard this for many, many, many years. I don't want to load the question by saying what I was about to say. I'll say this after. Do you think in any way, shape, or form that the NBA is rigged?
Not since they got Donegan, the referee out of the league a few years ago. Who was betting on the games, Donnie. But no, I mean, you hear that about professional sports, even college sports a little bit about how the networks want this team or that team, or I think the NBA of all leagues, because there's only 5 guys on the court, and I think the individual players are probably the most marketable in professional sports because of proximity to the court. Their personality shows through versus a football player, hockey player that's under a helmet and gear. Baseball, where you're separated from the fans are separated from the field a little bit more. So I think, it's been proven over the years. I mean, you can be a star in the NBA and being a small market, a small market team. That said, there are some inherent advantages. Some people just want the lifestyle of being in, New York, Los Angeles, South Beach, whatever. But I don't think, I don't think the league itself is rigged in any way. I think if that were to come out, just like the guys betting on baseball, right? I mean, lifetime ban. I mean, the things with pro sports, and college sports too, is, one of the premises is that they're on the up and up. If they're not on the up and up, nobody's going to watch. Then it becomes storyline driven, and it becomes pro wrestling. Which if you're going to market it that way, fine. The pro wrestling does great business, but people know going in that the outcome's scripted. Like if that was the case in pro sports or college sports, fans would tune out.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. What I was going to say is I don't think the NBA is rigged, at least when it came to my Raptors winning in 2019, because I don't think the NBA wanted Toronto to win. So I don't want to say I don't think the NBA wanted Toronto to win. I think if the NBA had a choice, then it wouldn't have been Toronto, because the teams that you would imagine get the most people viewing, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls of old, you hear that. I mean, I remember when the Spurs were going to NBA final after NBA final, people were saying this isn't good for television. It's not good for ratings. They're the most boring team. And I remember, Dave, thinking to myself, if I'm going to go to the NBA finals every year and I'm boring, I'll be boring all day long if I have an opportunity to win the championship. So, I understand where people come from at certain points. And like you mentioned, the referee that got himself in trouble. But I really don't think that the NBA's plan is ever for a team from Canada to win. But when the Raptors did it, and I'm not saying that the NBA doesn't like Toronto. What I'm getting at is if you are looking at ratings, Phoenix, Toronto, Milwaukee, Indiana, those are examples of some places where they might say like, oh, we won't get great ratings for this. But the Lakers you're going to, the Celtics you're going to, and the Denver Nuggets when they won last year, right? There was that thought process of like, well, what did that do for ratings for the NBA? Is there a lot of fans in Denver, Colorado, and blah, blah, blah. And I can't stand when I hear that, because to me, if you win a championship at any level fair and square, then, who cares about, well, this isn't the one we want. I mean, let's be real. If it was about ratings, Major League Baseball would have the Yankees every single year. They would probably have the Red Sox, right? So they'd have the Red Sox or the Yankees on one side, and they'd probably have the Dodgers on the other side in today's baseball. So, I don't like hearing it, Dave, but you and I have never really talked about it, and it just frustrates me when a team wins a championship or is playing for a championship, and there always seems to be that conversation, this isn't good for television.
Yeah, if it was rigged or scripted or anything, like we haven't had a 7-game NBA final since the Cavaliers and LeBron, beat the Warriors, and that's what, 9 years ago now, right? 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 2016. Yeah. So, we've had 4-1, 4-2 sweep, so. Where the networks make their money is in Game 6 and Game 7 especially. So, if it was storyline driven and rigged and everything, we'd be seeing 7-game series all over the place.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. So, now we have, and the reason why I brought it up is, some people put it out there yesterday when Bronny ends up going in day number 2 to the Los Angeles Lakers. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because there have been, not just in basketball, but in multiple sports, there's been players who are trying to get to the professional ranks, and their father had played already. We talk about Bobby Witt Jr., who's out there now doing his thing in the baseball world. We look at Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. We look in basketball now to LeBron and Bronny. We look to, football, and, I remember Walter Payton's son trying to catch on in the NFL, and it didn't really work out. There's certain times where it does, and there's times where it doesn't, right? And the question becomes, is this person in the news just because they're the child of? And I can say in certain cases, I felt like the people that were the children of the some of the greatest players in their respective sports weren't talked about that much. I don't feel like Walter Payton's son Jared, I don't think he was talked about a lot. But Bronny's been spoken about over and over and over again. How much of this do you think is Bronny's talent? And how much of this do you think in Bronny's specific case was because of LeBron?
Well, it's both. Obviously, it's both. If he wasn't capable of playing at a certain level, doesn't matter whose son he is, right? So he's got a certain amount of ability, and to play major college Division I basketball and then to get a shot at the NBA. But certainly when your father's LeBron James, it's not different from the only reason it's different is LeBron's stature and profile and visibility, and he's one of the most recognizable athletes in the world, right? But you see things like that at all levels, right? Everything from like Boeheim's kids played for him. Krzyzewski's nephew gets the roster spot at Duke. So you see it in college sports. Like in this case, in the professional level, there's a lot of business decision involved, and the Lakers are trying to retain LeBron, and obviously drafting Bronny puts them in a substantially better position to do that. LeBron, for his tenure and his accomplishments and everything, like he has, I guess he has built up the collateral and the credibility, to flex his muscles to a certain degree, and he's doing that. And other players have done that in various ways in the past. And the story came out yesterday about how Rich Paul was reaching out to the teams drafting in front of the Lakers in the second round, saying, don't draft Bronny or he's going to go play in Australia for a couple of years. It's easy for people to say, well, draft him anyways. And, the Celtics picked right before the Lakers. Red Auerbach might have, knowing his personality, might have done it just to spite the Lakers. But there's more to it than just draft Bronny, don't draft Bronny. Rich Paul's the agent. Rich Paul represents LeBron. He also represents a lot of other high-profile players in the league. So you run afoul of the agent. Now you create an issue, a ripple effect issue with his clients who you may be either on your franchise or people that you may be pursuing in free agency in the next couple of years. So, it's a more complex thing than it appears on the surface, and from LeBron's standpoint, he's can flex a certain amount of muscle, and he's certainly done that in his career. So, Jordan did the same thing. Great players have done have done that in all sports. So,
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we're seeing this. I just put a poll up. You can vote in it on X, the former Twitter, @CallDT. That's CALLDT from inside the Heritage Hill Studios. You have the opportunity right now to go over there as we're doing this, and over the next few days, Will LeBron James win an NBA championship with his son Bronny as an LA Laker? Early polling is yes that we've gotten so far. We literally just put it up. I want to jump right into the NBA draft. Round 1, pick 1, first overall. The number 1 overall picks. There's a history of that, obviously, and you're in your own class in that respect. The number 1 overall pick is what a lot of people typically remember. And so I got to ask you, Dave, what are your thoughts about this year's number 1 overall pick by the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, it's the Hawks, I don't think have ever had the top draft pick before, and a lot of the experts and the pundits and everything talked about how like there were no marquee players at the top of the draft. We were talking off air about how the Athletic breaks down prospects into 8 tiers, and they said first year ever there's been no tier 1 or tier 2 guys. So Riscar, he's not that familiar to Americans. It was a great draft for France, by the way. 3 of the top 6 picks are from France. So, really, I think tip of the cap to their, to French basketball and their player development model. But, the pressure comes with being a number 1 pick. If he's only 19 years old. I think he's a guy that, certainly they view him as a difference-making player, and it'll be interesting to see how his game translates, especially as he physically matures and gets used to the NBA game. And the thing that'll be interesting too is Atlanta's got some decisions to make. Are they going to retool the whole franchise? And you've heard that Trae Young or Murray might be on the trading block, and if they move one or both of those guys, now all of a sudden Riscar becomes the face of the franchise. And I think it's a team that probably, if they move on from Trae Young and if they move on from Murray, I think they're a team that's in full rebuild mode, and they could end up with a high draft pick again in the year. And now all of a sudden you pair a couple of guys together that, and you've got the San Antonio model if you can keep them around in your franchise. So a lot riding on him as far as the Hawks and as far as his, his NBA future. But, as we've seen, it's not a given. I mean, there's been a lot of number 1 draft picks that, have not lived up to the billing too. So we shall see.
Yeah, with Zachary getting drafted at number 1 overall, like you said, Dave, him coming out of France, going number 1 overall to the Atlanta Hawks. Number 2, Washington Wizards getting Alex Sarr from France, and then number 6 overall, seeing Salone going to the Hornets. So when you look at the fact that, you and I have discussed this before too, overseas players, the draft is so hard, right? There's Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO, G League, other leagues that people went into instead of playing college basketball overseas. Everyone is pooling into this draft. Everybody's in here. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people trying to get in. 4,000, 5,000 players trying to get 1 through 60. And we have seen over time, and sometimes more than others, an influx of international players in recent history. And it might just be that I'm paying more attention to it. But in recent history, I feel like we're more apt to see it. We saw it last year, number 1 overall. We're seeing it this year, number 1 overall. But to have 3 players in the top 6 from overseas, and not just overseas, but all of them from the country of France, what is that doing with the NBA draft, in your opinion, that the top 10, top 6, top 2 in this case, we're seeing from overseas get drafted, as opposed to somebody getting drafted from the States?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, it shows what a worldwide game basketball has become.
Yeah.
That we're, it's not just not just the draft, but if you look around the league, like Wembanyama, number 1 pick last year, Giannis, Embiid, like these are, these are international guys that, Jokic, maybe the best, arguably best current player. So I think it shows how global the game has become. And, it also gets you to think a little bit about the development model in the United States versus the development model overseas. And it's really a fluid situation because, with NIL and with the essentially, year-to-year free agency in major college sports now with, the transfer portal and the ability for guys to transfer all the time. Guys on the one hand, guys will tend to stay in college longer because there's a financial incentive now to that. They can make a significant amount of money, NIL money at a major college program. On the other hand, you look at a guy like Connect. People had him. A lot of the pundits had him as a top 10 draft pick. He falls all the way to 17 with the Lakers, and the rap there is the guy's 23 years old, and he's been in college for too long. And on the pro side, if you draft a guy at 19 versus drafting a guy at 23, the 23-year-old, the 19-year-old, by the time he's at 23, he's on his second contract already. So, the lifespan of a guy that stays in college, like that was the rap with Connect, stayed in college too long. So, in a sense, staying in college hurts their value to a certain degree when they go to the NBA. So I think, with everything being fluid, I think you're going to see, on the one hand, guys will be tempted to stay in college longer because there's more financial benefit in some cases versus coming out and trying to catch on as a free agent or a late second round draft pick or something. But the whole college situation has, it's basically put an end to G League Ignite. And G League Ignite has been a pretty successful program for them. There's 2 guys in the top 11 this year. And I think they've produced something like 13 NBA players in the, in a couple of years that program has been in existence. When it was conceived, it was set up as an option for guys who didn't necessarily want to go to college. Pro prospects could go play with G League Ignite, play in a professional environment, prepare themselves for the NBA, and make some money at the same time. And now the money that they can make with G League Ignite is a fraction of what they can make with NIL money in colleges. Because the things in college that were not permitted forever are now commonplace in terms of paying athletes. So, it's a really fluid landscape, and I think it's going to continue to be so for the next few years. I think my gut feeling, and I think when you see 3 French guys in the top 6, and when you see the number of international players succeeding in the NBA, I think that the player movement and the essentially year-to-year free agency, and you see it trickling down to high school sports with kids jumping schools and going to prep school, and AAU teams play with one team one weekend, one team the next. Yeah, I think that whole aspect of the American basketball landscape is perhaps hurting our player development, and that's why I think you see more and more guys like from France, from other other foreign countries that are being drafted high, and even more importantly, that are really succeeding in the NBA.
Yeah, and as we see this, like you said, basketball just improving. And I mean, you touched on so many different things, basketball improving overseas, as well as, where we are now in the world of collegiate athletics, and what is that doing for this? I mean, do you think it's, to go a little bit deeper into it, Dave, The fact that we have free agency in collegiate athletics now, the fact that you can be on 4 teams in 4 years or 4 teams in 5 years or whatever at this point, the fact that it's really not a focus on education at all. And when we're talking about Division 1, maybe in Division 2, Division 3, it's different, but I know that there's transferring within divisions and whatnot. When you're looking at, and I'm not saying Division 1 athletes, student athletes don't go to class. I'm saying there's less of a focus on it, and how could there not be with NIL and the transfer portal? And you don't think about transfer credits, right? If you go to 4 schools in 4 years or 2 schools in 4 years, not everything transfers over. And in the world of wanting to play in the NBA, like you've talked about and I've talked about, you get punished if you stay in college and get an education. It's kind of like if you're a talented basketball player, you got to leave to go to the NBA, or if you stay, you get an education in the NBA, I'll be like, nah, we don't want you. Because the NBA likes drafting on potential instead of drafting on knowing exactly what they're getting, like in the case of CJ Fair with Syracuse, which always boggles my mind. Would you rather make an investment on something you know, or would you rather make an investment on something you think you know? So in the case of collegiate athletics and free agency and not really having teams, but guys just kind of going where they want to go, do you think that's helping or hurting draft stock? Because we were talking off the air about the lack of a dominant player or players in this year's draft. Is NIL and are NIL and the transfer portal working for the American student athlete, or are they working against?
Well, I think it depends on your perspective to a certain extent. It's working for the student athlete to the extent that they're reaping a lot of financial rewards that college athletes previously did not.
Right.
So I think in that respect, it's certainly a player's, it's certainly a good thing for players. In terms of draft status and player development, it's more of a crapshoot. I mean, you can look at it like we talked about Kamp. We can look at a guy like him that, the rap boys stayed in college too long. The flip side of that is you look at a guy like Zach Edey who, when he was flirting with the draft last year, people thought, maybe second round pick. A lot of suspicion if he could stick in the NBA, and he's parlayed it, another year at Purdue into being a top 10 pick. So, I think it's the kind of thing that can work in both directions. I think all things considered equal, and this is where NIL has changed the calculus a little bit. Until NIL became prevalent, a high-level player economically, a high-level player needed to come out of college and get in the draft and get on his rookie deal as soon as he could, because the rookie contracts, according to the labor agreement, they're slotted according to. That's why you don't see holdouts with NBA draft picks typically, because there's really very minimal wiggle room in the contracts because of the collective bargaining and being salaries being slotted according to where you're drafted, especially in the first round where they're guaranteed contracts. So what had always made the most sense would be for a guy to get in the league as soon as possible, get on his first contract and play out his first contract as soon as possible, and then he can sign for market value. And it's that, you look at it now with like Tyrese Maxey, like he's he's team option, but he's going to get a max contract. So coming into you want to get into the NBA, play out your rookie deal and sign for market value as quickly as you can. And every year you don't do that is one less year of learning power you have. So where that has changed a little bit with college sports is now you can make substantial money in NIL to where you may make as much or more money with NIL than if you sign as a late first round or a second round pick. So I think the calculus has changed a little bit, as far as what makes the most business sense for for high level college athletes.
And I have to give a shout out to Jerry Kelly, who I know you know, and he is consistent every time. Well, first and foremost, Jerry, if you're watching and listening, thank you for your support over the years, but always positive about so many people in the community, including you, Dave. So I want to give a shout out to Jerry and let you know that he's watching and listening. So if you wanted to send any love back to Jerry, I want to give you the opportunity to do that because he's always sending love over to you.
Jerry's a good man, really good man. He's he's been very successful as a coach, but I think the thing that he is, he's had on the court success as a coach, but I think he's a guy who really understands that it's bigger than what happens on the court. He's a great molder and mentor of young people, and he's a credit to Lafayette and their community. So send it right back to Jerry because he's a really good man.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, and happy to hear about good people in the community here in Central and Upstate New York and beyond. So shout out to you, Jerry, and much love as always, and hope you and the family are doing well and staying safe and staying healthy and happy. With that being said, Dave, you mentioned Zach Edey, and I want to get to this. He was the number 9th overall pick, center out of Purdue. It's funny how they talked about nobody could plan for this guy. Nobody knew how to respond to this guy. Nobody knew what to do with this guy. And I said, yeah, because he's a true center. And college basketball tried to eradicate that. And the NBA as well. I mean, the basketball in America tried to get away from the true center, the guy who's not going to be out there dribbling the ball and shooting threes, but that he's going to be inside. He's going to be backing you down. He's going to, ask you to play him around the rim and try and stop him. So many teams had no answer for him, especially this past season in most cases, because they didn't have a true center. So who are you going to put up against a guy who is a true, real center when you don't have anyone of that height, you don't have anyone of that playing ability, and you don't have someone who's used to that? Everybody wants to shoot threes. Everybody wants to, get out and take their jump shots. And here's Zach Edey, who's like, give me the ball and let me go to work in the paint. He ends up being the 9th overall pick. I'm a little bit sad because some people had him dropping to Toronto, which I would have loved because they haven't had a true center in a very long time. So your thoughts on Zach Edey going to the Memphis Grizzlies, number 9 overall, and the fact that this man is a true center. What does he bring to the NBA as he commanded such a spotlight in college basketball because he's an enigma now in people, like I said, when people saying, how do you guard this? Well, you eradicated this position, so that's why you don't have anybody to guard it. In the NBA, do you believe that he can do what he did collegiately and take advantage of the fact that basketball in America has gone away from this traditional play? Can a traditional center with the Memphis Grizzlies bring Memphis to another level because of the fact that we don't see a lot of Zach Edey's anymore?
Yeah, I think Edey's he's the most polarizing guy in the draft when you think about it, because Memphis obviously believes in him and took him with a number 9 pick, a top 10 pick. Yeah. And it's interesting that Memphis would be the team to take him because, Memphis was kind of one of the last teams to go away from the traditional big man. When they had Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph, they were one of the last teams in the NBA to kind of play that, inside-out style. Yeah. So Edey, he's developed as a player, and he's pretty skilled. He's really skilled, big guy. I think the things that are going to be a challenge for Edey are, there's so much screen and roll and mismatch exploitation in the NBA. And he's not really a guy that, you can have him switching out to Steph Curry or one of the elite guards in the league, in a screen and roll situation. So they're kind of locked into drop coverage with him. And the other thing is, the game changes a little bit in the playoffs. And, Rudy Gobert is a great example, defensive player of the year. But then you get in the playoffs where, teams are attacking matchups more deliberately and more intentionally. And, Rudy Gobert goes from a defensive player of the year to a guy who becomes unplayable in some situations in the playoffs because there's nobody for him to guard. And so, you wonder with Edey, if he ends up falling into that. But it's like I said, he's I think the most polarizing and in a lot of ways one of the most interesting guys in the draft because the draft in general, nothing sells like hope, right? So you see all these draft grades and everybody gets an A or a B and this is the guy and blah, blah, blah. I saw a couple of different draft analysis. Every guy in the first round gets an A or a B except for Memphis got a D for drafting Edey that high. So, so some people loved the pick, some people hated the pick. But, I'm open to giving the guy a chance because, like I said, he really progressed the last couple of years in college. And so, if he can figure out how to navigate, some of the defensive issues he's going to face, then, I think he's got a chance to be a good pro.
Yeah, we talk about other guys that were drafted early here. UConn back-to-back national champions, and we know that their head coach, Dan Hurley, is staying in UConn. Not surprised, as you and I spoke about. They had 2 players drafted in the top 7, so not only in the lottery, which is the top 14, but in the top half of that top 14. We saw Stephon Castle go to the San Antonio Spurs, 4th overall, point guard out of UConn, and 7th overall to the Portland Trailblazers, Donovan Clingan, and him going there at the center position. So the 2 UConn players, and then later on in the Big East, in the first round, 13th overall to the Sacramento Kings, Devin Carter out of Providence, their point guard. And the last pick of the first round, 30th overall to the Celtics, Baylor Shireman out of Creighton, shooting guard, there to going to the new NBA champions. So what are your thoughts on the Big East? We'll start with UConn getting 2 in the top 7, and then Providence getting the 13th. And the champion Celtics. I think with them getting Shireman out of Creighton, somehow the Celtics arguably may have gotten better after winning a championship. This could be a little sneaky thing, a little sleeper to watch. I'm going to circle this one as I circled Jaylen Brown when he came into the NBA, and I was like, yeah, I think this guy's a little bit better than what people might be. They weren't talking about him, and I was like, I like Jason, I like Tatum, but I also like Jaylen. And in the case of Shireman, I've covered the Big East. I've been there for the Big East tournament in the Garden. I was there at Big East Media Day this past season. I hope to be there this season, God willing. So your thoughts on the 2 Huskies going in the top 7? And then we also see the Big East having Providence with a player going 13th, and then Creighton getting in the first round with 30th overall with Shireman going to the Celtics.
Well, I think, Castle going to the Spurs, and I think especially Clingan going to Portland. Portland's a team in kind of full rebuild mode, and he slipped to 7. Like some people, there was even a little chatter a week or so ago that he could end up being a number 1 pick. But most people had him a little bit higher than 7. So I think both of those guys are going into situations where I think they're going to have a chance to be. I mean, Clingan especially, I think he'll be a day one starter with Portland, and that's a team in a rebuild. And I think he's clearly a guy that that Portland's looking to build around. And I think Castle's going into it. He's going into a pretty good spot with with San Antonio, who's retooling their team around Wembanyama. So I think those guys both landed in spots where, they're going to have every opportunity to be big parts of what those rebuild teams are doing. Carter to Sacramento is kind of an interesting pick. I think Sacramento, they're a funny team. They're like a team that feels like they're on the cusp of really being in the mix as a contender. They need a little bit of guard help, so I think Carter kind of fits the bill there. And I agree with you. It's a Celtic pick. Boston, you think about it, like there were a lot of games in the playoffs where they only played 8 guys, So I think drafting Shireman at the end of the first round, I think he gives them a little bit of perimeter depth. And, Boston's a team that I believe they shot the most threes in the NBA last year. So, he's a guy that they can space the floor with and, give him some perimeter depth and kind of plays into the way Boston likes to play. So.
Yeah, and this is it is. I mean, it's exciting. I think arguably the Big East does provide the best basketball conference. They were the best basketball conference when they had Syracuse and they had Louisville, and to me the Big East, when it was the teams that we see there now, the UConns and the Providence and the Villanova and so on and so forth, but they also, in Georgetown, they had, and obviously some of those teams, Villanova is trying to build back up, Georgetown's trying to figure things out, Providence, after Ed Cooley leaving to go to Georgetown, that's going to be interesting to watch and see what that becomes. UConn is obviously back up at the top of the mountain and looks like they could be staying there for a long time with Dan Hurley. But the Big East with Syracuse and Pitt and Louisville and Notre Dame, they used to be the best conference in basketball. Then arguably it became the ACC who got those teams. And now I think it's back to the Big East. Even though they have less teams in the ACC, I think the Big East is, I mean, to me, it's the tournament that you want to watch. To this day, I've been there, like I said. I've been back to the Garden. They still play physical basketball. I think the officials in the Big East allow them to play real basketball as opposed to the ticky-tack garbage that we see collegiately sometimes now, where you can't graze someone with your pinky and you essentially can never block a shot, especially if you're like 7 feet tall because you get called for everything. But in the Big East, they let them play. And the physicality and the grit, there's just something to be said about the Big East. So I like that there's been 4 players drafted this year out of the Big East in the first round. I do want to go to the Knicks picks. They had back-to-back picks at 24 and 25. They took a player out of Miami, a team that I've covered for over a decade, and then they took a player out of France. And then in the second round, the Knicks took another player out of France. So we talk about, France having the top 2 picks this year and having 3 in the top 6, 50% of the top 6 picks coming from the country of France. And then later on in the draft, there's more players taken from France, and the Knicks took 2 of them. What are your thoughts on the New York Knicks and where they're at? Because they made a move to, obviously there was the move for Mikal Bridges, and what that did, they gave so much draft capital to the Brooklyn Nets to build between now and 2031, and they have Mikal Bridges in there. They have talent that they brought in over the last couple of years. Then in the draft, they get back-to-back picks, and they end up getting a player in the first and second round from France. What are your thoughts on what the Knicks are doing in the draft and what they're doing overall?
Well, they had the back-to-back picks, but then they ended up trading George to the Wizards.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So they ended up with the 1 first round pick, Daddy who's he's a depth guy. I'll tell you the move that the Knicks made that you didn't mention that I really like, and I think the guy could end up being a steal, is Portland drafted Kolek from Marquette. Near the top of the second round. Like a lot of people had him as a late first round guy, and then the Blazers ended up flipping him, trading him to the Knicks. And I think that's a guy who can give them good backcourt depth. I think he's a guy who will stick on their roster and give them a little bit of guard depth. So I think the Knicks, they're certainly they're spending money, and I think they're a team that they're certainly trying to go all in and make additional moves, because I think, it became up, especially when they got a little dinged up in the playoffs, they're not quite there to challenge Boston. I don't know if anybody in the East is at this point, but I think, the Knicks have, they're pushing all their chips to the middle of the table. And, I'm a guy that, I like the fact that the team is playing to win, and not worrying about a draft pick in 2030 or 2031 or something like that. So I think the Knicks, one of the things they had in their favor is I think they outperformed expectation this year. Yeah. I think they're not going to have that luxury next year. I think expectations are going to be high, combination of the season they had this year and the moves they're making in the off season. So, and frankly, one of the questions, with the Knicks, is going to be, is Thibodeau. Thibodeau is going to parlay this year into a contract extension. But, his past would lead you to question whether he's the guy, whether there's a ceiling with him as the Knicks coach, or, whether the Knicks will get to a point at some point where, kind of like when Mark Jackson was with the Warriors, where they had to make a move and bring in Kerr and bring in another voice to get them over the top. So I think that'll be an interesting subplot for the Knicks in the next year or two as well.
Yeah, and like you said, the Knicks trading away one of those picks that I had mentioned of the first round. When we look at that trade away of Keyshawn George to the Wizards ended up with 3 picks in the first round. Number 2 overall, Alex Sarr, power forward, and then you go down the line to 14, a guard, Carlton Carrington, and then we go to 24, the original pick by the Knicks, Keyshawn George, shooting guard out of Miami. What's your take on the Washington Wizards? Is this a team that got better automatically? I mean, obviously we're going to see how things go, but the fact that they had 3 picks in the first round and essentially 3 picks in the top 24 realistically, so not only in the first round but within the top 24 of the first 30 picks, what does this do for the Wizards as we go forward?
Well, I think the Wizards are another team that appears to be like in full-on rebuild mode. I like the pick, with the 2 pick with Sarr. A lot of people had him as the best player in the draft, and is the highest upside player in the draft. So, I think he's a great piece, like centerpiece to build around. He's a guy kind of like, whether he ends up as good as these guys remains to be seen, but he ends up, he's a guy who's a little similar to like Wembanyama or Holmgren, where he's a big skilled player that, that can space the floor and, but is really skilled. I think that, the Wizards, like I said, they're clearly all in on the rebuild, and I think they're probably going to suffer some growing pains for a couple of years. Not unlike what happened in OKC and what's going on in San Antonio and everything. But I think, with the amount of draft capital that they've been able to use, if these guys pan out, especially Sarr, if he ends up being, I think there's a reasonable possibility that he'll end up being the best player out of this draft. And if that's the case, then the Wizards take a huge leap forward in their retool and rebuild process.
Yeah, and then you mentioned before earlier here with Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball head coach and analyst, as we take a look at the 2024 NBA draft here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. You mentioned him, Dalton Knecht, the Tennessee guard here, going to the Los Angeles Lakers. What are your thoughts on Dalton? And I got to say this, like him or don't like him, sometimes Stephen A just gets me to laugh. And before this pick came in, he was like, you need a shooter. And I don't care what you say. He's like, you need a shooter. You got to have a shooter. You didn't have anybody making any shots last year. He's like, you need somebody who's going to make some shots. You need to get a shooter. This guy's got to understand this. You need 3-point. You need it. It needs to be done. You need to do it. No question. Get it done. Yes. Thank you. Good night. And then they go and Dalton ends up getting drafted. What do you think? Was this the right pick for the Lakers? Did you like this pick? I know Magic Johnson said something after, Dalton got chosen by the Lakers, 17th overall. What are your thoughts on what the Lakers did in round 1?
I think, honestly, I think the Lakers lucked out a little bit with him falling to them.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good fit for what they need, like around LeBron, around Anthony Davis. One of the things that I saw people said, well, he's a J.J. Redick clone, a Redick coach in the team. So, you would think that, as they scheme things out, Redick would have an appreciation for his skill set and, find a way to integrate him with what LeBron and AD are doing. So, we talked about him being an older guy, and this is why I think the pick makes sense for the Lakers too. Like, he connects probably, definitely is a lot closer to being the finished player that he's going to be than some of the guys that are like 19 getting drafted above him. But, we talked about, like, Sarr going to the Wizards, right? He's young, and some of the other young players at the top, like Riskar with the Hawks and whatnot. Like, those teams that are in a little bit of a rebuild, clinging to Portland's another one. They can afford to grow with the players. Because those teams are in a little bit of a rebuild mode. The Lakers are not in a rebuild mode with, LeBron having maybe 2 or 3 years left, and Anthony Davis, he's approaching the backside of the career too. The Lakers are win now mode. So, when they're drafting, you got to think they're looking at, we need a guy who's closer to a finished product and can come in and fill a role for us right away. And I think they got that for sure with Kamp. I think, he landed in I think he's a great pick for the Lakers, and it's a great landing spot for him personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's exciting to see, for them to have, because they've had it in the past, but now to have a true shooter, what that's going to look like. The Toronto Raptors, my squad, Dave, they had 3 picks because, and we'll get to the last one in a second here. They originally had 3 in the first round. They had 3 in the first round, and they ended up getting 2 picks in the first round before the draft started. There was one of those picks was gone, but 19, I think it went to the Spurs. But 19th overall, they drafted Jacoby Walter out of Baylor. Fun fact about Jacoby: his parents named him after Jordan and Kobe. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. That's where they got Jacoby from. So he heads to the Raptors 19th overall in the first round. In the first pick of the second round, which is 31st overall, they drafted Jonathan Magbo out of San Francisco from the Dons. And the 57th pick, the second to last pick of the draft, we talk about how there's usually 60 picks. This year there was 58. The Suns and the 76ers lost a 2024 second-round pick due to league penalties. So there was only 58 picks this year. The 57th pick was the Memphis Grizzlies pick, and reportedly that pick was traded to the Raptors, the second-to-last pick. That was drafting a center out of Cameroon, and that being Ulrich Shamshe. So what are your thoughts on the Raptors' 3 picks that they got in this draft, as they are in this retooling and reimagining mode of what they're going to look like for the future? They're in a new chapter that started during this past season with Pascal Siakam being moved to the Indiana Pacers. So what are your thoughts on the draft picks of the Toronto Raptors?
Well, I'll start with last first. Shamshe's not going to be on the roster. I think he's a guy that he's a long-term project. I think he's a guy that, they'll stash him in the G League on a 2-way contract for a couple of years and see if he, if he develops, into a serviceable NBA player. He's a fairly long-term development guy. I think Moko, the pick they got at the top of the second round, I think he's a guy that, he was an undersized big in college, so he's going to have to change his game a little bit, but he's a high-energy guy. And for his size, really high-level rebounder. I think if he's a guy, if he can, I'm certainly not going to, prognosticate that he's going to get to this level, but he's a little bit like Kawhi Leonard when he came into the NBA, in that, Kawhi kind of had to, Kawhi was a little bit of an undersized post in college and had to kind of retool his game and become a better three-point shooter, and that led him to being one of the elite guys in the league until injuries have kind of gotten the best of him in recent years. So I think there's something to work there with Mopo as well. So I think that's an interesting draft pick for sure for the Raptors. And then Walker, who they took in the middle of the first round at 19. I think he's a guy that, he's got raw talent. Gives him a wing that could potentially be explosive. He's got physical tools, so I think he's another guy, like with the Raptors being where they're at, I think he's a guy that's going to have an opportunity to, to grow into a role pretty quickly. I think he's an incomplete player because he's got to become a little bit better shooter than he's kind of displayed so far. But I think there's something to work with there. So, I think Toronto for a team that is in a little bit of rebuild mode too. I think they've got the two guys that I think can be players, and then the late pick they got that'll be a stash and develop guy. So probably makes sense all the way around for the Raptors.
Before we saddle up here with Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst of the wonderful sport of basketball here, as a coach, as an analyst, as a mind, and just first and foremost as a fan, as we cover this 2024 NBA draft here on Wake Up Call. Three final pieces here, Dave. The first one being somebody that I covered in college and that I have respect for their game. Surprised, not surprised, in the world of Kyle Filipowski coming out of the Duke Blue Devils, that he fell out of the first round into the second pick of the second round, 32nd overall, going to the Utah Jazz. Thoughts on him falling out of the first round? Thoughts on him going to Utah, and if that's a good fit for him? What's your take on the Kyle Filipowski scenario?
Yeah, really surprised that he fell as far as he did. Some guys had him ranked touching the lottery, near the back end of the lottery. So I think he's a guy that, for Utah, I think it's a great pick for Utah because that's another team that, he's got to become a little better floor spacer. But I think he's a guy that, he'll find a role with Utah. I think for them to get him, in the second round, I think is kind of a steal because I think he's a guy that it's probably, the thing that's really surprised me that he lasted that long is, it's not considered a super deep or super great draft. So he's a guy that I think, can find a spot on, a role in an NBA roster, and to see him drop to the second round was a little bit of a surprise.
And then as far as the Houston Rockets go, there's talk about them being advantageous here in the offseason as we get ready for some NBA moves to be made post-draft. What are your thoughts on the Rockets? They had the third overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. They drafted Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky. Your thoughts on the Rockets pick, as well as where you think the Rockets are at? Do you think that this is going to be an advantageous and busy offseason for them?
Yeah, the Rockets, they're a team that they had cratered and made some significant progress this year. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rockets try to make big moves to kind of get them into that contender, back into contention in the West, or if they're going to continue with the incremental growth. But Shepard's a guy that a lot of people were high on in the draft, and Kentucky guys tend to overperform in the pros versus what they did in college to a large extent. I think Calipari gets he gets a lot of grief and everything, but he's been about developing players for the pros, and they get beat in the NCAA tournament by teams that have juniors and seniors and everything. Like Kentucky hasn't advanced very far, but their roster will be better NBA players than most of the other people in the tournament, including the teams that beat them. So, I think Shepard. A lot of people liked him. Everybody had him in the top 5. I think he's a good. Good pickup for the Rockets, and it will be interesting to see if the Rockets, there was talk that they were going to trade out of that pick, but didn't happen, and apparently didn't get the offer that they wanted. So I think they've got one of the guys is projected as one of the better players in the draft. So should be a great fit for them, and I think Houston need a little bit of shooting, and he brings that.
Final note here, Dave. We saw the draft move to 2 days, and the first, obviously being prime time on Wednesday night, on Thursday happening right before 4 p.m. at 3:40 p.m. Eastern time, the draft started. What's your take on the draft being 2 days in 2 different locations? Like it, dislike it, round 1, day 1, round 2, day 2? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it in the sense that, like in the past, like first round would end, and then like the second round was like rapid fire, 2 minutes a pick, and it's getting late, and like you usually like didn't stay up to watch the second round and that kind of thing. So I think having the second day kind of gives the second round a little bit more of a life of its own, and the picks where there's more time between picks to digest, and the part that I didn't like and I feel bad for is like this coach Filipowski was one of the guys actually. The NBA invites guys to the green room and everything that they project as first round picks, and I think he was one. I think Furphy was another one that people, experts had those guys going in the first round when they were invited to the green room. Now those guys got to sit there through the whole draft, and and like the last guy in the green room that you see all the time and everything. So I think it makes for an uncomfortable situation for those guys because they never get their name called. So, I mean, I think there's pros and cons. Having it early in the afternoon, they did that because of the presidential debate yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see whether they stay with the afternoon format or if they, move it back into prime time and they're not competing with, something of national significance. But on the whole, I like it, like I said, because it gives round 2 kind of a life of its own.
Yeah, and I think that was good, too, in the middle of the day, too, to pay attention if you're at work to, check your phone and kind of see where everything was at and, where's your team picking and whatnot. So, I mean, because obviously the beginning of the second round when the Raptors were picking, to see that, come across the phone and have that happen in the middle of the day and feel like you're a part of prime time when, the sun is very much out and some people are kind of finishing up their work day and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of cool to see it in that respect, and we'll see what they do as they move forward here in the grand scheme of things. But that's a look at the NBA draft, taking a look at what's happened here over these last couple days, having the opportunity to have Dave Pasiak on the broadcast to speak on so many topics with the NBA draft, and as we move forward, I do want to make a final note here. Jesse Edwards, who played for Syracuse and then went to West Virginia, thinking probably that his head coach was going to be Bob Huggins. Then Bob unceremoniously parts ways with West Virginia. He plays there for a year. He got signed after the draft to the Minnesota Timberwolves. What are your thoughts on Jesse Edwards? Does he have a place? Can he have a place playing here? I mean, I'm happy he got signed. We'll see him in Summer League, I would imagine. So what's your take on that? I know P.J. Hall out of Clemson, he's got a place to go after the draft as well. So some of these names that we're used to seeing in the ACC getting some opportunities, and Jesse Edwards with a connection to Syracuse, and I've had a connection to him over these past few years. Just what your thoughts are on seeing him have a home in Minnesota, and if you want to make a note on P.J. Hall as well.
Yeah, like guys in that situation, on the one hand, we've talked about this before, not getting drafted allows them to sign where they feel like they might have the best opportunity to get a legitimate look in training camp. So hopefully that ends up being the case for both of those guys. I really think those are guys where summer league is going to be important. Not just to sticking with the teams that signed them, but they get legitimate build-up of film and maybe get on the radar of other teams in the league too, where like if it doesn't work out and they end up being a training camp cut or a cut after summer league, where somebody else might like what they see or overseas teams might like what they see. So, I think for those guys, free agent signings, I think the summer league, which is another thing that the NBA has really done a great job of building up over the years. But I think to where it's an event. But, I think the summer league will be really pivotal for those guys. And, the whole thing is get invited to training camp. And it's hard to say with free agency not hitting yet. It's hard to say how many actual roster spots are going to be open, with a lot of NBA teams. So sometimes you sign one of those contracts strictly for summer league because in reality they've already got 15 guaranteed contracts and there's going to be no room for you on the roster. So, hopefully it works out for both of those guys.
Yeah, and summer league, to second that, I spent a lot of years covering summer league and hope to hopefully do that again very soon. And a lot of respect for what that is, what it can be, and getting to see guys that have made it. And, Contavious Caldwell-Pope is at the top of that list. I watched him for 2 years, and I thought this is the best guy in Summer League. He's the best player in Summer League down in Orlando. So when he, got out there and people started watching him, I was like, yeah, he's good. When they watched him at Detroit, watched him with the Lakers, I'm like, yeah, he's a really good player. There was no question on my mind that he was a star at Summer League, and it was good to see that story. It's good to see all those stories come to fruition, and I always hope the best for these wonderful, wonderful, hardworking athletes because I know that this is their dream, and I hope that they all get to live it in some way, shape, or form to the best of their ability and by the grace of God. With that being said, Dave Pasiak here on the broadcast on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, speaking on the NBA draft. Dave, as always, it is my honor and my pleasure to have you on. I love breaking this thing down with you, and it's great to talk with someone so knowledgeable about all the teams around the country. You do your homework, you pay attention, and you challenge me. So I appreciate it, as always, and can't thank you enough for your time.
Well, thanks for having me on, Dan, and always appreciate it.
All right, I'll talk with you soon.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. That coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I want to thank you for tuning into the broadcast today and every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets life. You're with us around the country, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and, of course, you are with us all around the world on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So with that being said, we thank you for being with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And once the shows go live, you can hop into the archive. There's plenty of shows there. We've added a bunch this week, and so you can go and check them out on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. I suggest you jump on that today. It is free to do so. All you have to do is find us on your favorite podcasting platform and click subscribe, click follow while you're there. And like I said, it is free to do. Just search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. With that being said, here you could visit our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York. We have a fantastic team that is with us. I call them a team because we work together, and I appreciate them so very much. They get to know each other, and this is truly a family here at Wake Up Call and with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. Heritage Hill Brewhouse, Heritage Hill North, as well as Carvel DeWitt, our longest-standing partner. The Wildcat Sports Pub, where we were last night with West Genesee Baseball's championship team, which was an incredible night. You can go back and watch that on youtube.com/WGBC wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and I implore you to do that. GG Cards and Brakes, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Kampground, Dog Boarding, as well as Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Make sure you go out and visit them today and let them know that Wake Up Call sent you. Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, and Mother's Cupboard, the home of my sandwich, which you can get. My breakfast sandwich is only at Mother's Cupboard. And that breakfast sandwich is bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and eat it like a sandwich. Cut it up and have it with syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. You can also dip it in some syrup if you're going to eat it like a sandwich. And you can find it 7 days a week on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. daily. And, of course, you can get the DT Dolphin my Sunday, which is connected to the Lemoyne College Dolphins. You can find that Sunday down the road from Lemoyne College, and that Sunday on 4322 East Genesee Street is there 7 days a week. It is mint chocolate chip. Of course, it is green for the Dolphins, and it has hot fudge, whipped cream, a cherry, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream, only at Carvel DeWitt, the longest-standing Carvel franchise in America, on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. The Lemoyne College Dolphins are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Dolphins Wednesdays during Dolphin Time. That's Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You'll find your Dolphins with AD and DT and the Dolphin Dive. These specials for you, featuring student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can find them on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. The Lemoyne playlist has our shows throughout the past 3 years and counting. And of course, you can find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to lemoynedolphins.com. And as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you what we call the Bobcat Buzz, a spotlight throughout the year on student athletes, coaches, and administration, featuring men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and esports. You will find your Bobcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the BSC Syracuse playlist. There are 2 campuses for Bryan and Stratton Syracuse. They are on James Street in Syracuse, New York, as well as on Route 57 in Liverpool, right across the street from Avicoli's. You will find your Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Bearcats every Tuesday during Bearcat Time, weekly on Wake Up Call at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Our monthly specials, Moments with Marshall, featuring Binghamton University Athletics Director Gene Marshall, and our Bearcat Break Room with student athletes, coaches, and administration. You'll find all this content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll find the Binghamton playlist there on our YouTube channel to chronicle throughout time our specials spotlighting Binghamton University. And of course, you can find them on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Heritage Health Studios, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT. There's going to be a lot of things coming up, so make sure that you're following us on social media 24/7. Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. Like I said, the Heritage Hill Studios go out to the Brew House over the weekend in Pompey on 3149 Suite Road, and go to Heritage Hill North on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, right there by Sweetheart Corner. Thank you to Carvel DeWitt for the annoying moment of the week. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay for lead the top dogs of the week, the Baldwinsville Bees girls flag football team, brought to you by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding, and of course Dave Pasiak on the NBA draft. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I can't thank you enough for all your love and support. Thank you, Jerry, for your kind words. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy, please be good to each other, and know that you are worth it. You have value. You are priceless to God, and I hope that you chase after all of your dreams and understand if God brings you to it, He will bring you through it. There is nothing you cannot accomplish, and if you give everything you possibly can, being honest, being kind, loving, faithful, caring, humble, hospitable, you have nothing to apologize for. I love you all. Have a beautiful day. From the Heritage Hill Studios, God bless. No stress.